Good afternoon, everyone. Our apologies for starting a little bit late this afternoon. We're having a little bit of technology issues, a little technological glitch, but otherwise we are fine. I'd like to go ahead and welcome you all to our Board Executive Committee of the East Bay Regional Park District. This is Thursday, August 6th, and we're starting at, I don't have a time thing on my phone, but we're probably about 9-10 minutes late. So our apologies for that. And we're ready for the roll call. Becky, we can't hear you.
This is Becky Fang, recording secretary, taking roll call at 12:44 p.m. Director Corbett?
Here.
Director Rosario?
Here.
And we are trying to connect Director Wieskamp. She is not on the phone right now. Members of Park District staff in this meeting include Dr. Ana Alvarez, AGM Tony Chiburo, AGM Christina Kelchner, AGM Deborah Ocker, District Council Carol Victor. We have Brian Holt, Devin Reef, Catherine Dudley, Steve Castile, Rachel Arbios, and Yolanda Burial Knight. And of course, we have Robin from PrimeGov as well, supporting.
Thank you very much. So today's board committee meeting is held in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order, allowing for board members to participate in standing committee meetings remotely. We are providing live audio and video streaming and have provided the public an opportunity to email or call in prior to the meeting to make sure we give them the opportunity for public comments. This information is found on our agenda and is also posted on the district's website at ebparks.org, and it is posted in advance of the meetings. And let me just ask if any committee members have any questions about the procedures for today's meeting.
No questions.
We're all good. Can we check one more time to see if Director Wieskamp has joined us?
I don't see her.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Director Rosario, should we get started?
Yeah, I think so. When she gets in, she'll get in.
Okay.
We have some important subjects to cover.
And we'll make sure that she is able to take part as we get through our presentations. So thank you very much. We'll go ahead and get started. We have some very important items on the agenda, as Director Rosario has noted. And the first item we will discuss this afternoon is the Concord Hills Regional Park naming, the information update. And presenting today is Devin Reef. Hello, Devin.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Devin Reef with the Park District, Principal Planner with the Park District, here with an informational update on the Native Tribal consultation that staff has been doing to name the new regional park in Concord. For people listening at home, the Park District Board adopted the Concord Hills Land Use Plan and certified the environmental review documents on July 7, 2020, with the understanding that a separate process would select a name for the park, as Concord Hills Regional Park has been the working name for several years. Ultimately, the Park District Board of Directors selects the park name at a public hearing. Staff was last before this committee in May and heard the direction to consult with as many of the tribal entities in the 2 counties as could be reached, and as were interested in giving us their thoughts, and to return with information about the consultation process. That's what today's presentation is, simply informational. With the assistance of Dr. Beverly Ortiz, who retired last year after many years with the Park District, helping us make contact with tribal leadership, staff, myself and Brian Holt, spoke in one-on-one conversations with leaders from 9 tribal entities. These groups were contacted from the Native American Heritage Commission consultation list, or were tribal entities with cultural affiliations to the area, or were federally recognized tribes which have requested consultation with the Park District in the past. So staff to date has spoken with the Association of Rementush Ohlone, California Indian Water Commission, the Kunoan Rumsen Carmel Tribe, the Confederated Villages of Lisjan, the Himren of Ohlone, Bay Miwok and Plain Miwok, the Indian Canyon Mutsun Band of Costanoan people, the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, the Ohlone Indian Tribe, and the Wilton Rancheria. And we are now in communication with the Ione Band of Miwok Indians in the Sierra foothills who've expressed interest in consulting on the naming as well. There was one tribal leader who declined to participate after our invitation from the Amamutsan tribal band of Mission San Juan Bautista, explaining that Concord is not in their ancestral homelands. So this leaves two remaining tribal entities from the Heritage Commission list who we still welcome participation from and we're still reaching out to. And that's the North Valley Yokut tribe and the Tachi Yokut tribe. Staff will be hosting a conference call in mid-August to establish consensus among the participating leaders. So let's review the map that's attached to the board materials of the Native people who were on this land prior to and during the Spanish mission system. That was in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. I'll share my screen now.
Thank you, Devin.
And share this map. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so here we are at the site of the Concord Hills Regional Park. This is the future park. Here is Mount Diablo. Let me zoom out. Here's Mount Diablo State Park. In orange, the light orange boundaries are the generalized boundaries of the language groups. So as you can see, this whole part of Contra Costa County was in the Bay Miwok language group, and there were several different dialects. South of here and to the east, to the west of here was the San Francisco Bay Costanoan group of languages, and there's several dialects there as well. In black are the generalized locations of the tribal groups themselves. So you can see that the Chupkan people were in the Concord and sort of northern area north of the mountain that we call Mount Diablo. To the west were the Saklan people, and to the east and south, the Volvan people. So that gives you sort of a landscape of where the tribal people were prior to and during the Spanish contact. I'm going to stop my sharing now. So the tribal leaders we spoke with all have either ancestral ties to the people of this area or sacred ties to the mountain that we all call Mount Diablo. In general, the park name suggested by the local tribal leaders fall into two categories. One is a name that honors and recognizes the people for whom Concord and this side of the mountain was their ancestral homeland. And the second grouping is a name that uses words in Bay Miwok languages to honor and recognize the land where the tribal ancestors lived. So in the first category, names suggested have been Chupkan Territory Regional Park and Chupkan Regional Park. Also suggested were Costanoan Bay Miwok Regional Park and Chupkan Bay Miwok Regional Park. In this category, Chupkan Territory Regional Park has had the most support so far from the tribal leaders. In the second category, names suggested, In the second category, names suggested were those that would translate into a Bay Miwok dialect a phrase that honors the land, such as fighting for the high ground, or place where the rivers meet, or other phrases, or names for common plants in the area. Separately, another naming option being considered is to select a name in a Bay Miwok dialect for the mountain, which is now known as Mount Diablo. Tribal leaders we spoke with wanted some more time to consider a phrase that might be a good one to translate. So that's why we were setting up a larger consensus meeting with the tribal leaders in mid-August after this meeting. There was also interest from some tribal leaders to use the park's interpretive plan in the future to present a history of Native American participation in the United States military. This would connect the Native presence on the land here to the use of the land by the United States Navy for the last 75 years. Staff is working on this research for possible inclusion at a later date. And finally, to remind the public of the other names suggested through the public online surveys, which we did in the spring, names which don't reflect a Native American heritage or culture. Those top voted names were Concord Hills Regional Park, Diablo Vista Regional Park, Los Medanos Regional Park, and Monte del Diablo Regional Park. For the next steps to adopting the park name, staff suggests returning to the board executive committee, this committee, at your September 3rd meeting for a recommendation, followed up by a presentation at the Park Advisory Committee on September 28th, and then to the soonest available board meeting, perhaps as soon as October 6th, for a final vote on the park name. So thank you, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you very much, Devin. We very much appreciate this work that you've been doing, and I think it really reflects what the committee has asked for, to have a little more opportunity to have conversations with the indigenous peoples about this land, their land, the land that they have lived on for years. And we just really appreciate this, sensitive and, great direct touch to people that we should be respecting and talking to when we're looking at naming land. So thank you so much for that. I do have a few questions, but I think I will open it up to Director Rosario first, if he has any questions or comments he'd like to make. But we really appreciate, this is a really great report. Thank you, and great work that you're doing.
Yeah, no questions, but just comments, just following up on Director Corbett's statements as well, is that I'm very appreciative of the efforts that we've gone to contact our Native American peoples in the area. And I didn't realize the list was so large, and I appreciate you listing all the contacts. And I look forward to what comes out of that, because I know members of the board, as well as at least on the executive board committee, and as well as the PAC, were strongly in favor of a Native American name. So I really appreciate this process, and I'm extremely happy. Thank you very much.
So ditto to what Director Rosario just said as well. I just have, I don't know if they're comments or questions, but very much appreciate in the report how you have discussed the interest of tribal leaders in addressing their service in the military, and for people who have had the honor of attending gatherings and had the opportunity to view a grand march. That's a very, very important part of the gathering, where there is recognition and respect for the members of the tribe that have been involved in the military. So I know that is extremely important. I know that also in your research, there's some really great work around this type of military history that's part of the Smithsonian Museum of the American Indian. And I know some of us who have visited there have seen some of these presentations and representations. So that might be a place where you can go for some background as well. If you haven't already found that, you're very thorough, you probably found it already, Devin, but just want to suggest that. And then very much like the various options, either the naming specifically in recognition of tribes who have lived in these areas. And I very much like the idea of a name in the Baywalk language, or the Chukpan language or dialect. I think that is very appropriate. I'm glad that that's an option that we look at. And I was very, when we approved the plan the other day, I was listening very carefully. And one thing about this amazing piece of land is there's a lot of history over the years. And I remember a statement being made by, I believe it was Tom from the National Park Service, that this was a land of many stories, of many histories. And I thought that might be another type of theme, using the Babiwak dialect words that might represent a land of many stories or deep history, rich history. That's just an idea, but that's something that I thought of. So I throw that in as another idea. I did have an opportunity to talk to Tom just to ask him if he had some resources for people familiar with the language that might be able to assist us. And he did give me some resources. So I'll share those with you. They're probably, again, resources you've already found, but I'll share those with you. So yeah, this is really great. I also appreciate the process that you've outlined in bringing this back, and of course the process that we follow in naming parks. So I think it's looking very good. And again, we know this has taken a lot more work, but it's definitely warranted and very much appreciated.
Well,
And that's all I have to say.
thank you both for that. We have also heard the appreciation of the tribal leadership, who appreciates the efforts that the Park District is making. And we know that this is relationship building. This park is going to be many years in the making. There'll be many other opportunities for Native participation, maybe culturally or through the visitor center. So I want to explore all those possibilities, and I'm glad the naming opportunity has been a place to start that.
Yeah, we very much appreciate that too. We know this is a sort of a beginning to making sure that we recognize and are quite equitable when we name lands in the future. And I think I can speak for Director Rosario. We're also very happy to hear that the tribal leaders are happy to be engaged as well. So we so welcome their participation as well. And that's it. So thank you. I don't know, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Devin. We look forward to additional updates.
Okay.
Great work. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to our next item. Let me pull up the agenda. And that is our 2020 performance plan and mid-year update. Pardon me. Deputy GM Dr. Ana Alvarez will present on this item along with Catherine Dudney.
Thank you so much, Board President Corbett. Good afternoon, board members, esteemed colleagues, and members of the public. Deputy General Manager Dr. Ana Alvarez. I will be joining Catherine Dudney in presenting this item to you today. We will also be joined by members of the Park District's executive team who will contribute to our discussions today at your pleasure. So Catherine, if you can put up the PowerPoint, I appreciate it. So when we explore the Park District's performance plan, it should be done in 3 different lenses. As a metric for accountability to mission delivery, as a policy document that speaks to allocation of public dollars to specific endeavors, and certainly as a governance component in holding the public's trust through a transparent commitment to what the district is committing to deliver for the year and how the work is being done. Next slide. Our organizational values speak to precisely our public commitment on how we conduct our work. We do so by respecting and honoring the land that we steward, honoring each other and the park visitors we serve. Through a resilient spirit, we embark on strategic pathways while creatively adapting to change with empathy, perspective, and determination, as we have demonstrated during these very difficult times when we are protecting employee safety while keeping parks open as a public health resource during the COVID-19 pandemic. Because we understand and embrace the notion that our greatest strength truly lies in the trust, accountability, and teamwork we cultivate with our colleagues, our partners, and the public we serve. In fact, most, if not all, of the work objectives identified in the 2020 performance plan require a multidisciplinary approach and collaboration where communication must be open, honest, and reliable to be able to achieve success, and its collective success. And as I previously mentioned, how we do our work must be transparent to honor and sustain the public's trust as a public governmental agency. Reporting out to you today with a mid-year update on the 2020 performance plan gets to the very heart of transparent governance as we publicly engage in a discussion on the overall Park District's performance. I like to think of this process as the Park District's overall performance evaluation. Next slide. To conduct a mid-year assessment, we must place it in context. So here's a slide that shows you that through a highly vetted process, many voices and interests were considered, including information coming out of the board's workshops to develop a public-facing commitment of what we will be delivering in 2020. As you can see through a public hearing as part of the budget process, the performance plan was adopted by the board of directors in December of 2019, ready to embark in a new year of work. However, right at the onset of our performance plan, we were diverted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. But the plans remain in place with some adjustments or amendments as a consistent demonstration of the Park District's commitment to mission delivery with an emphasis on tangible and measurable results. Its framework is comprised of 8 goals that you can see here on the wheel, that we like to call the wheel, delivered from the master plan. So all this information came out of the master plan, and it was streamed into 49 indicators with 90 objectives. We like to think of indicators as ongoing quantitative metrics that are tracked and reported at the end of each year, where objectives are one-time milestones that are developed each year. And as we begin understanding the mid-year status of the plan, each division has provided input indicating whether the objective was completed. Next slide. So you will see in blue if in fact the objective was completed, or shown in green if they're on target to be completed as planned, or in red if not on target, meaning that these specific work objectives have been deferred mostly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. Here you can see that overall about 75% of our work objectives, the one-time endeavor that we wanted to embark on, are precisely on target for completion by the end of the year. And about 25% are not on target, again, mostly because of the capacity and our attention being diverted to COVID-19, to the response of the emergency declaration. We have it included in the staff report, attachment A, that provides an explanation of those items that are not on target, and it also includes notes of a few modifications. Next slide. Here you will see a distribution across goals of on target and not on target. Each goal contains objectives that have been largely unaffected by COVID-19 and others that have caused delays, or we have perhaps work substitutions. This is a good thing, and I have to emphasize this. This is a very good thing, as it indicates that we are not overlooking or dismissing any of our goals as staff embarks in reprioritizing the work. What's not shown on this slide, and you'll learn more about as we continue with the presentation, is that there's an additional 18% growth of new objectives and new type of work that we have to embark as a result of responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. So here's the same information, but now it's shown to you by division. And generally, the status of each objective is also distributed across divisions, showing that the impacts of COVID have been district-wide. While objectives are led by a specific division, achieving objectives often require coordination of multiple divisions, as I mentioned to you before. But you can see in the red that is very well distributed across all the divisions, and with a significant portion being carried by the executive and legislative division, as well as the operations division. So it's certainly something that we're managing. And next slide. And here's another representation of the work that we're amending as part of the performance plan for the mid-year review, where we're integrating an additional 16 work objectives. And this is just to be able to respond to the emergency declaration. And those additional objectives represent, 16 objectives. And those 16 objectives represent, as I mentioned before, about an 18% growth in our performance plan. So we're doing very well, and I'm very proud to say that the district continues to deliver on its mission. And staff has done a phenomenal job to be able to extend parks as a public health resource, and being able to also, and most importantly, maintain the safety of our employees. So Director Corbett and Director Rosario, I'm very pleased to tell you with full confidence that the entire park district is fully engaged in delivering the mission of the district, even if we're working remotely, or if some of us are attending a 400% increase in park visitors. So with that, I'd like to have Catherine join me, and she's going to walk you with specific details of each of the objectives, because we're very keenly aware that this is our public commitments, and we want to be able to engage in a full conversation with you, understanding what has changed and why it has changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Catherine. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Catherine Dudney, Management Analyst. Thank you, DGM Alvarez, for the introduction and high-level review. Members of the board, I have the pleasure of being able to update you on some of the details of the things that we've accomplished this year in 2020, and highlight, it's been a little bit different than we may have expected, but we get to highlight some very valuable work that our staff has completed as we have been in the COVID-19 pandemic. This is really a reflection of all the district's work. And as Dr. Alvarez mentioned, it's a multidisciplinary process that involves everyone. Your board packet has the details that you can see, as she mentioned, on the individual measures that have been adjusted or not met, and the new objectives that we have added. So we're going to click through each one. And the thought was that we would stop and pause at each goal. And you would have an opportunity to ask any questions at that point while the information is up on the screen. Okay.
Great.
Sounds good.
All right. We're zooming in to restore, preserve, and protect scenic, natural, and cultural resources. So this goal is largely on target as planned for 2020, and it includes some really important and complex projects. So for example, the McCosco Creek Restoration Project, as you're all aware, is the largest creek restoration project in the Park District's history. Initiating the feasibility study for Jewel Lake is a beloved and iconic Park District landmark. The negotiations with the Alameda Naval Air Station are complex, dealing with a former military base. So these are, like I said, important and complex items that are moving forward under this goal. We're continuing to work with our four-legged partners on our fuels management and our fuels crews. And we have a renewed engagement with the City of Oakland to find some solutions at Lake Temescal. Are there any questions about this goal and things that you'd like to talk about in more detail?
Not specifically about this goal, but I know that these are goals that we work towards. We have been working towards over the 4 years I've been here. And I'm just wondering, when we established these specific goals, did they, obviously they come from some of this comes from board workshops. I recognize that. But I'm just wondering, when we establish these actual goals, how did that happen? Because that probably happened before I got here.
Yes, I'll take this one, Catherine. This is the body of work that was done by our general manager and former boards of directors. All the goals come directly from the master plan. So that's
Okay,
that's the
the master
primary
plan.
commitment. Yes, our
Okay.
primary public commitment in the mission of the district.
Okay, very good. And then just a quick question, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit off track, but will we be doing another master plan at some point? I know we have a lot on our plate with COVID-19 and all that, but I just wonder if we're tracking, because it's been a few years since we did do a master plan.
We are certainly tracking, Director Corbett, and this is a conversation that we've been having in general. And it's a conversation to continue with the board in the future. Absolutely.
Okay, because I think we're coming up on, when did we do the last master plan?
Our last master plan was completed in 2013. Actually, we began the process in 2013, and I believe it was completed about 1 year to 2 years later. Mhm.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Sorry.
All right, we'll move on to the next goal. Okay. So this one is attract and retain a workforce of excellence. So most of the objectives under this goal are on target, as staff is working on training and hiring and moving forward with our Peralta Oaks North Administration Building. While a few of the items have been delayed as a result of COVID-19 and reprioritization, there has been a lot of additional work conducted under this goal, as noted by the 9 new objectives that we added as part of the mid-year. So this is the longest slide of things to go through, but it's a lot to be proud of, and really want to commend staff and acknowledge their work on these items, and all the items really. But we launched several new communication tools to relay information to employees during the pandemic, including a new COVID-19 intranet site that currently contains 335 documents and almost 40 web pages. We launched a new Summit learning management system to track compliance, assign, and deliver trainings remotely to employees. Both the intranet site and the online learning system were projects that we hoped to present in 2021, but we accelerated this work based on remote access needs of our employees during the pandemic. We also enrolled employees in Nixle alert text messages, set up a confidential email account to direct questions, and are producing a weekly newsletter from the general manager highlighting safety protocols and new public health information. Also acknowledging our staff accomplishments. Another way we're highlighting staff is through our Together #WeAreEPRPD campaign. That is to acknowledge our staff as essential workers during the pandemic. We've issued a disaster service workers training and certification, guidelines for telecommuting, a families first leave policy, and a new collaborative working group, the COVID-19 task force, bringing together Park District and union leadership and board members to discuss and address emerging issues and strengthen our communication. Throughout the pandemic, employee safety has been paramount, and we've developed approximately 20 new safety-related protocols, meeting regularly with our public health partners to stay informed on the latest information. And while not directly related to COVID-19, the Park District and the Board of Directors also adopted a resolution to denounce racism and stand in solidarity with Black people and all people of color, furthering our commitment and action to address diversity, equality, and inclusion issues within our organization and the populations we serve. So we've added a new objective to conduct an organizational assessment to understand what barriers exist to our DEI efforts, and to identify evidence-based approach on how to resolve them. Are there any comments on items under this big goal?
Director Rosario?
Yes, thank you for this. This is a great document here. first I wanted to say that, under workplace planning, when we're talking about workspace planning, are we also including, is that, would a structural feasibility study be in line in this space, or would it be somewhere else? Because I was thinking of the HVAC systems in both buildings, and just reading up on recent research, it seems like those need to be reworked or really looked at to be viable for our employees when we populate those buildings. And so I was wondering if that was going to be, is this the appropriate place for it to be in here or in another objective?
Yes, thank you, Director Rosario. We do have AGM Christina Kelchner, who can speak to the newly acquired building. And also I would like to invite Deborah Ocker, who can speak to the current headquarters, Prado Oaks. Christina?
Yes, thank you, DGM Alvarez. And with respect to the new building, Peralta Oaks North, as we call it, we have just signed the reached agreement and signed the contract with the consultant. So we have a kickoff meeting in a couple of weeks to start the space programming and the planning and the design. And absolutely, it will be a primary part of their scope to figure out how do we make the building safe now that this is a new reality that will probably be with us maybe, forever in some version, that we need to have a way to have employees work safely. And a lot of that is about the circulation system, the HVAC, the air filters, and having enough space between folks. And, if we need to stagger schedules, all of that will be taken into consideration. And we'll be looking to our consultants to give us the, state of the art, what is the current thinking out there. And some of our staff have already been attending some seminars and some training on what the most current thinking is about how to design workplaces for safety. And I'll turn it to Deborah if she has anything about the current building.
Thank you. The HVAC system for the current Peralta Oaks administrative building has been reviewed. We have changed some of our processes with our HVAC operations. Things like running the air through the building prior to the office opening and running the air through the building after everyone leaves, leaving the dampers open when there's no smoke event or anything to require the dampers to be closed, and checking and making sure we have air filters that are of the highest quality. I think those are touching on some of the main things, but we certainly have looked at our HVAC system and we feel that it's able to accommodate the requirements that are necessary right now. Catherine, I know you were involved in some of those calls. Was there anything else I missed?
That was the main things that we've discussed, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And then just one other suggestion, not for this category in the future. Our main title here is attract and retain a workforce of excellence. If we could insert the word diverse, attract and retain a diverse workforce of excellence, I think that would also speak to our commitment to a diverse workforce in the community. And so that's my only other suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. I agree. I would just say,
I have to give credit to Kip Walsh. We had talked about that many months ago, and
okay,
took the opportunity. So it was her idea.
we'll give credit to Chief Walsh. That's important. I think it's good to give credit where it's due. I would just say, under this category, we're looking at this nice list of accomplishments, but in a couple of pages, there's an immense amount of work. And I just want to recognize that the review that's being done and the work that's being done to make sure we retain a diverse workforce of excellence is it takes a lot of work and a lot of, sort of researching who we are and where we're going. And that is an intense process. So I just want to recognize the deep amount of intense attention that goes into this particular section. So thank you. This is a lot, and then of course adding to it all of the items that are necessary because of COVID-19. And I think we can be very proud as an organization as to how quickly we did pivot to address all of the issues that COVID-19 brings to an organization and how we take care of our workforce. It's been quick, and people have stepped up, and I don't think there's really been much of a lag when it came time to people getting together and figuring out what the right thing to do. So, obviously we will always have issues that come up, further things to address. But at the same time, I just want to recognize the amazing amount of work we have done as an organization to address this emergency at hand. So thank you, everyone who's been involved in that, adding that to your workload of all the other great things we do. So thank you.
Thank you for the recognition. I'm sure everyone appreciates hearing that from you. All right, are we good to move on to the next?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so zoom out to our wheel and going into balance environmental considerations and outdoor recreational opportunities. This is another one that has some really long-term projects associated with it. Most of the goal is on target. There's been some delay of objectives, partially due to COVID-19 and also the result of some regulatory issues that are external to the park district as described in your attachment in your board packet. The projects listed here for completion, such as the Concord Hills Land Use Plan and EIR, are the product of many, many years of hard work. And in order for these objectives to stay on target and continue to move forward, the Park District needed to work early in the pandemic to set up safety protocols for our staff and our construction contractors in the field. So that's some of the behind the scenes work that happened in order to keep these projects on target. And just highlighting a few of our photos of our planning staff in the field at Concord Hills and Los Trompos with their social distancing and protective equipment on in order to keep these projects moving along. Would anybody like to have any questions about this goal?
Looks good.
All right.
Looks very good.
Okay, next, enhance the visitor's relationship to nature. So again, most of the items are on target. The ones that are not are pretty much related to performing and cultural arts implementation, which we haven't been able to do because of the restrictions on COVID-19. We also have reduced a few of the objective numbers in the storyboards and media toolkits in order to shift work priorities to cover COVID-19 items. We are on target with new interpretive opportunities, such as the pavilion at Shadow Cliffs and the installation at the Del Val Visitor Center, which were objectives in 2020, and also completing exhibits at Sonol and Black Diamond Mines, which were not part of the 2020 performance plan, but are great milestones that we are completing this year. Overall, the focus in 2020 has really been keeping the parks open in the midst of this unprecedented visitation. And all of our staff, particularly those in operations out in the field, are working really hard to keep our parks safe and accessible. Our creative design group has printed over 4,000 signs to inform the public about how to safely use our parks. And our INR staff have developed dozens of educational videos. So this is kind of ways that we're still keeping going and keeping up with the visitors to our parks. Any questions on this?
Director Rosario, do you have any on this one?
Not at the moment. I just, no, I'm good.
I do have a quick one. So all really wonderful, great work. You know, COVID slowing us down a little bit, but glad to see that we're still planning in this area. I do wonder when this is sort of a broader question, obviously we put together programs and recreational programs and educational programs to meet the needs and the interests of the communities that we serve. And I'm just wondering, have we done any surveys recently into all of the various wonderful diversity of communities that use the park? Have we done any more specific data collection to see if maybe there are other opportunities, other types of programs that we might offer that might be even more meaningful in our parks?
Yes, thank you, Director Corbett. The best way to begin answering that complex question is really understanding that the Park District continues to poll. So we have a very good, robust program that's led by our government affairs team. So I'd like to invite Chief Eric Fuller to give us a little bit of an insight of what we've been learning from the public. I think that's a good way to start the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alvarez and President Corbett. We did recently just complete a survey, and I think you might have seen the results at
Yes.
I'm not sure which meeting it was, but we have been sharing them. And we, based on the Park and Public Interest Survey from last year, we actually are putting out another scientific survey with similar questions to make sure that we're understanding and listening to the broader community. And that will be paired with some work that we'll be doing with the Center for Regional Change at UC Davis to do a deeper dive into sort of the interests of the public so that we can better serve and better understand and better listen to diversify our portfolio of what we're offering. So we're working on it. It's been a little bit of a slower process because of COVID, but we definitely understand the importance.
Yeah, and I do very much appreciate the surveys that you have been sharing with us. I'm just wondering if we have an opportunity to do deeper dives into communities as opposed to more general questions we ask from time to time. So that might be a question for another day, but I would have great interest in us doing a deeper dive into communities that maybe we haven't in the past. And sort of do a survey whether we are reaching all of the communities that that we serve.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have a further discussion with you about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much. I think it's very timely. Director Rosario.
I remembered my my question regarding the arts, performing arts, and a cultural arts policy. I know it's kind of on hold, but I just recently heard of there's a grant by the Akanade Foundation in Oakland, and I think it's $300,000, and for either static or performing arts in the parks. And I think we should avail ourselves or avail our parks to that program as well, just to enhance park visitation and a sense of community for our parks and the Oakland community as well. I think we taking part in those events just highlights not only us but also our commitment to the community as well. So yeah, I will try and forward that information to Dr. Alvarez and Catherine too.
Yes, thank you so much, Director Rosario.
Thank you very much. All right, thanks for your good work in this section.
Move forward. Next one. Okay.
Oh, this is a big one.
For the Park District. Yeah. So funding, acquisition, and planning is ongoing. And in some places the focus has shifted, but it's still very much priority. We are tracking expenditures of COVID. We're advocating for COVID-19 relief funding. We've provided reimbursements for canceled reservations, and we're starting to plan for the future recession that we are facing. So we've also done some polling. So this is what Eric was just talking about. I wanted to highlight it here. It said that 96% of the public thinks that the parks are important, and most of the people we polled were very supportive of the parks remaining open during COVID-19. So we think this is a really good sign, and this can translate into long-term funding for the organization. As a country, we also met a major milestone with securing the Land and Water Conservation Fund funding at the federal level, and this is in part due to the advocacy work of many park and open space districts. So those are good news items on the funding front. Would anybody like to ask any questions or pause on this slide for a little bit?
Director Rosario?
I'm good.
I would just say, obviously, this is a very important objective. We can't do any of the things we'd like to do unless we ensure that we have good fiscal health. And we know we have some challenges to deal with moving forward as COVID hits. But also just want to note that very appreciative of the broad-based approach that the Park District always takes to make sure that we're looking at all of the various different opportunities to bring resources so that we can deliver our mission. So, and this certainly highlights it on this slide. So this all represents a lot of long-term work as well. So, and we have some more to do. So always happy to stop on this objective for a moment because it is really key to everything else we do. So thank you.
Okay, pause, move on. Foster a safe visitor experience. So, you know, all of these goals are important goals, right? So we continue to provide services to help our park patrons stay safe. And some of the highlights this year include moving forward with the helicopter replacement. This is really important for being able to survey our lands and for the fire mitigation. We have also completed educational campaign for fuels management. It's very critical at this time. And then early on during the pandemic, we issued the emergency declaration and established our Emergency Operations Center to plan for the safety of our staff and the public. And through the EOC, we've developed the safety plans and purchased and distributed supplies. And with the increased trail use and park visitation, we've increased our patrols and our education campaigns. And we've also been collaborating with other park districts on regional messaging and best practices. So one of the major changes this year to this goal, particularly when it comes to the performance plan indicators, which we're not reporting on now, but we will report on at the end of the year, is the canceling of our swim program. And while we're very hopeful about this program and tried to keep it open for the public, we needed to make that difficult choice to keep the public and our staff safe. So that will affect the performance plan in that regard. Is any comments on this slide?
Director Rosario?
Yeah, I just want to again compliment staff on being able to react and be flexible. I really think the collecting of regional trail use data is extremely important, and if we can, because without data we can't justify things, and especially when it comes to legislation and future funding. And I'd like to see that expanded to collecting data on a lot of on most of our other trails as well. And yeah, everything else looks great. I think we should look at no, I think we're good. I'm looking forward to the getting an update on the helicopter replacement process as well, see where we're headed in that direction.
Great, and one quick response to the point about the trail counters. We have developed the trail counter recommendation plan. with our various departments weighing in on that. And so at this point, we just need to get the trail counters purchased and installed, but there is a plan for that.
Great. Also, is there, this came up recently, now that I'm thinking about it, is there any way to collect demographics of who's using our parks and how they're using it?
That's a good point.
Because that came up in another conversation with a member of the public, but I think that would be something we should try to strive for as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. That's something, a continuous conversation that we're having. Again, it sounds like a simple request and a logical, reasonable thing to do. It's a highly complex issue given the fact that we're managing very large swaths of land with 101 ways to go into those lands. No, we can certainly tap into our visitors that come into our visitation centers or educational centers, but to really have a complete picture, it's quite an undertaking. And I see that we have our Chief of Government Affairs on, so maybe Eric, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we've had some conversations about that, Dee, and it is a complex issue, and it would probably involve interceptor surveys, meaning having people in the parks to talk to people that are coming to the parks. So that's obviously a challenge with COVID. But we're planning to have a conversation with Portland Metro about, they did a very similar thing. And so we're going to have a conversation with them to see how they did it, so that when we can have more human to human interaction, we would be able to implement a program like that. But that is a priority for the GM as well in terms of our visitation use and numbers. So happy.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Eric, may I ask a further question on that? So in the surveys we have done recently, do we collect demographic data? I know there's complexities to that, but do we ask for voluntary demographic data so we can track who we're getting these responses from?
Yes, absolutely. And we also are collecting the crosstabs so we can compare, certain traits with certain types of interests. So we do have that information.
Because I don't think we've seen that yet, right? Have we? The specific demographic data that goes with the survey. Have we seen that yet?
I don't know.
I don't recall seeing it. So that would be great to share with us as well. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Glad to hear it's happening. Yes. And thank you for everything that's being done to keep our visitors safe. As you mentioned, each one of these objectives we could talk all day on, but I know we have to get through the report. So thank you. Another really great program. And we look forward to our swimming programs coming back next year, we hope. And I always like to stop on swimming for just a second, because it's really a public service that the Park District does offer swim lessons still. It's not always easy to find swim lessons, and it's just so important, right? So thank you. These are great programs that we offer.
Okay, we'll move on to our next goal. This is improving access to public parklands and outreach to underrepresented groups. So generally this goal is on target with some modifications to reflect the changed conditions and shifted work. We were able to complete the objective to hire 5 new bilingual volunteer ambassadors in February prior to the start of COVID-19 in-place work. And while the interpretation and recreation has not proceeded as anticipated, we have adapted and created many new ways to connect to diverse community groups through our digital programming and virtual events. We've also provided the COVID-19 signage and videos in multiple languages and posted our messages in ethnic media. I think we'll stop here and see if there's anything you want to talk about on this goal.
Director Rosario?
Can you explain the initiate ADA self-evaluation? What does that entail?
Do you want me to do that, Dr. Alvarez, or are you going to go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
And if District Council Victor is on and wants to add insight to this,
Yes.
this is a plan that we have at the Park District, and I believe that we need to update it every 10 years or so. I think it's about a 10-year-old plan.
Okay.
The self-evaluation and transition plan, my understanding is that is a required plan that we have, and it needs to be updated, but that's a significant level of work. We're gonna get some additional support through a consultant, I believe, to help with that process, and we just haven't been able to initiate it yet.
Okay, I was just confused by the word self. That's actually the district looking at its our own ADA plan. Okay,
That's
got
correct.
it. And then I was just looking at the recruit bilingual ambassadors. I think we could also include that part as in our park staff recruitment as well. You know, making bilingual employees a priorities as well. So, thank you.
Well, if I may, Director Rosario, actually, I would like to call on Chief Shaburo because that was a goal specifically for the police department to be able to implement the new bilingual pay premium for our police officers. And I don't know if Chief Shaburo would like to add anything to that.
I think it's first off, it's very important. My career in law enforcement started with a desire to serve in a Spanish-speaking community. And that's why I minored in Spanish and I'm fluent in it. And that's how I was actually able to get a job in San Jose because I could pass the bilingual test. And that's really one of the only ways you could get a job in the late 80s if you had a special skill. So I'm an advocate of it from a personal standpoint. From a professional standpoint, it's absolutely a key to communication and calming a situation. We are certainly aware of this. We are using this as a recruiting tool. Lieutenant Kocher is on top of this, and we have officers who have applied and are certified, have passed the bilingual test. So we certainly are an advocate of it, and we are grateful that this is part of the compensation package that the district is affording to applicants.
Excellent, excellent.
Excelente. Muchísimas gracias, Tony.
Okay.
Wonderful. And we're very proud of the fact that we have a bilingual chief. I know we're all very impressed with that, and we know what a difference it makes. And we hear stories about you out in the district talking to our park users, and it always puts a smile on our face that our chief is communicating with our park users.
Is that
So that's great.
Is that
Sorry?
Director Wieskamp?
Yes,
I finally
Director
made it
Wieskamp
in. They
has joined us.
Hey,
Welcome,
Yay.
Director Wieskamp.
It was quite a fight, let me tell you. They kept
I know.
rejecting me.
Well, we're very happy to have you, and we are on.
So where are we on the agenda?
Where we are is we're on item 3, which is the 2020 performance plan mid-year update. And Dr. Ana Alvarez and Catherine Dudney is presenting to us on each of the performance objectives. And we're currently on the objective, improve access to public parklands and outreach to underrepresented groups. We just had that.
And I just heard the chief, so that was really nice.
Yes. Yes. And I'm going to ask a quick question on that one. If you get to, it's page 12 of 15 in our packet.
Okay.
That particular item. And I was just going to ask further about the bilingual volunteer ambassadors. Do we have a very specific plan as to where we deploy the ambassadors, the bilingual ambassadors?
This program is managed very closely by Mona Ko, who's our public affairs manager. And regretfully, she's not here with us, but I know that she's very intentional and she's very strategic where she deploys the ambassadors. And what I would have to say to that, Director Corbett, is that Mona understands the connections of what we call the ethnic in place of the communities that reside adjacent to specific parklands. So she assigns her ambassadors based on those connections and those relationships so that there's trust. So we're not just plucking ambassadors throughout 2 counties and 33 cities, but that there's a real connection and a bridge with those communities adjacent to those lands. And I wish that she or Juliana would have been here to speak of that program, because it's a very beautiful program, and it's a good first step, or a good step towards our DEI overall goals.
Will we be able to thank her for this? Will this item be reviewed by the full board as well? This
No,
report?
the mid-year performance report, it comes only to the executive committee.
Okay.
It's the
Okay.
full board that will be able to see the end of the year report, specifically on the indicators. But
Okay.
if you have an interest in understanding that program better, we can certainly ask Carol Johnson, our GM of Public Affairs, to bring something forward to you, to the board executive committee.
Yeah, I think it might be nice to even have a report to the full board on the bilingual ambassadors.
To the full board? Okay.
Mhm.
I think
that
I
would be
agree with you, President.
Be nice to hear more about that. Yes.
Yeah.
And may I ask another question, sort of along the same lines as where Director Rosario was going? Do we also, in our hiring of other interpretive staff and naturalists, do we also have specific goals towards hiring bilingual employees, as we do in the police department?
President Corbett, we have not discussed extending a specific bilingual program for those positions represented by ASME Local 2428 that are interfacing or interacting with the public. That's something that will be certainly folded as part of our overall assessment of understanding our pathways towards being a real inclusive organization and a diverse organizations. But having said that, I also will say that we do have on staff naturalists that do speak Spanish, and that they do engage the monolingual Spanish community, or at times even the bilingual Spanish-speaking community. And I see that our Chief of Human Resources, Kip Walsh, has opened up her video. Is there anything else you would like to add, Kip?
I see you took my cue. Thank you. Good afternoon. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things that we have put in place in the last 2 years as part of this general discussion, and that is that when we post a job announcement for a public-facing position like park ranger, interpreter, et cetera, we have language in our job announcements encouraging applications from bilingual applicants, and then having a question that asks them whether they have bilingual skills and in what language. So and the intention of that is to encourage bilingual candidates to apply, to let them know that we're interested in garnering some bilingual candidates. It's sort of a soft sell, it's not a really aggressive policy around that, but it is one piece we're doing to encourage bilingual applicants. I wanted to mention that.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much, Chief Walsh. Yes. Deputy
And I
GM.
think as we embark on our assessment, we will have conversations with the board that will be expanding beyond just language skills. I think what we really want to get to is being able to bring cultural competencies into our naturalists so that they can understand those connections culturally. And so and I know that the National Park Services has been extremely successful in putting into place a culturally competency skill set for environmental education.
Great.
That sounds great. And
Very ambitious.
as we continue to collect our data and look at the demographic data that we have already collected with our surveys, that will help guide us. That's great. That's really great news. Thank you. All right. Director Wieskamp, do you have any other comments on this item, on the improve access to public parklands and outreach to underrepresented groups?
It sounds like everybody's headed in the right direction.
Okay. That's great. All right, and I'm just checking here. Are you joining us by phone, Anne, or?
By phone. We
Okay,
gave up on computer.
Okay, so when you, I'll try to make sure I call on you after every
I'll
item.
appreciate that.
I can't see you. But if I forget, pipe up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next goal.
All right, welcome Director Wieskamp. We actually only have one goal left, and then, certainly you can provide some comments on any of the ones that you missed if you had questions. Last one that we have is plan for climate change resiliency. So again, for this goal, most of the objectives are on target, but the pandemic has had some silver linings here. So this is one where, as a result of COVID-19, we've actually seen a reduction in carbon emissions and traffic. We're observing improved air quality. There have been more wildlife sightings, such as the coyotes that were seen at Dublin Hills, and more birds. So the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed organizations everywhere, including the Park District, forward in our use of technology. And we have needed to develop procedures and secure technology for employees to work effectively from home. And while this was not intended as, it did not come as intended for this year, there are many positive impacts for reducing carbon emissions. The technology upgrades that we're making now to promote remote working and the training that we are doing is going to serve as a long-term benefit for the Park District and reducing our footprint into the future. So we'll continue to move forward with several large restoration projects and also our waste reduction efforts in parks that are ongoing. Any questions or comments about this slide?
Director Rosario?
Yeah, what's the holdup with the Coyote Hills restoration design?
So I'm going to ask Christina Kelchner, AGM Kelchner, to join us. And Catherine, while Christina joins us, do you mind reading the update?
There she is.
Hello. Hello, AGM Kelchner.
Thank you. Director Rosario, there were delays due to COVID. We had to coordinate with other agencies, the supply chain, the consultants, they just couldn't get out there and do the work. So I don't have the specifics in front of me about the new timeline, but I know the delays were COVID related. I'm happy to get you more specifics on that.
Does that affect the service yard at the new campground?
Don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I believe that was just for the restoration project.
Okay.
The restoration portion, not the service yard, but I'll confirm that.
Yes, that's correct, Christina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Director Wieskamp, do you have any questions or comments on this one?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a question about the data collection for the solid waste management plan and waste reduction strategy. And my question is probably just sort of a general question. I know not that long ago, well, probably last year, pre-COVID, that we were shown a multi-sourced trash collection receptacle that people had worked on. And have we started to deploy those out in the parks? I don't think I've seen them at Crown Beach.
Yes, thank you, Director Corbett. Yes, we have, but I also would like to give an opportunity for acting AGM of Operations, Steve Castillo, to join us to share a little bit more details about the three stream waste bins.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so a committee was formed, basically not a committee, but, members of the staff have been formed to kind of take a look at it and analyze what our needs would be. And I know that we started a pilot project through several of our parks with the three stream bear savers is what they call them.
Yes.
They're looking into breaking up basically the regular trash with the compost trash, with the organics as well into that. And so I know there are multiple park sites out there that currently do have that installed. And I know that 50 cans more, 50 units are still on order right now. And so that is being implemented park-wide.
Okay, great. And we've been able to work out the pickup, the I don't know what you would call it, but the when the trash collectors come and pick up the various streams, worked out whatever the programs or plans for that.
Yeah, so with that, we have specific bins now that we've also been having for larger bins. One is for organics, one is for regular, and then one is for recycling. And so one of the methods that we're using in the field as a pilot right now, just to help our park staff sort, is basically the clear garbage bags, or even maybe a different colored garbage bag, so that when they're disposing them in their trucks out of the collection, they automatically know where to put them, so it's being, selected out. There is a few problems here and there with the mixing of the regular garbage with recycling or something like that once in a while, but for the most part, it shows that it is working on a limited basis right now.
Yes. And then do we have separate trash haulers for, I guess, depending on what part of the park district we're in? We have trash haulers, and we'd be able to work out the relationships with them on picking up the various different streams.
Yes, it's multi-agency depending on where you're at.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions on this item?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sure you've already gone through it.
Yes.
On page 3.
Yes.
Discussing the fact that we're holding out on the, because obviously of covert completing the design for Peralta Oaks. I have been concerned about, and I'm sure Christina could tell us, with that we are, what we're coming up with to take care of airflow throughout the building. And if we are working on a filter system or what's been recommended of both buildings.
Yes, thank you. AGM Kelchner, are you jumping in on that one?
Sure. Hello, Director Wieskamp. Your fellow colleague, Director Rosario, I think beat you to this question and asked this question a little bit earlier in the meeting. So we did have a short discussion of it. And this is a team effort, myself and Deborah Ocker. I'm working on the new building, and my response to Dee was that, yes, absolutely. The scope of work for the consultants for the designing the new building will include how do we make the building as safe as possible for COVID, and what does the latest science say about the airflow and the HVAC and how we need to design that. And then Deb had some responses, if she could join us as well, AGM Ocker. She had responses about what we're doing on the current building. So I'll turn that over to Deb.
Okay. I would appreciate, I hate to be redundant, but I would like to hear what's going on.
No, it's an important question.
Yes, very important.
And so our current Peralta Oaks administration building, we have reviewed our current HVAC. We have regular maintenance on that and have been working with that the firm that serves us for a long time. And one of the things that our system allows is for you to run the system. We schedule it to run for at least an hour, maybe even longer, before the building is open to the public to clear out any stale air. And then we're running it again after the close of business every day to clear out anything that had built up during the day. We have a way of opening and closing dampers on that building. And so we're right now leaving all the dampers open, and they'll stay that way until there's some kind of reason to close them, such as a smoke event. And we've also reviewed all the filters to make sure that we're getting the highest quality filters that are recommended for this situation. And so that's what we've done so far, and we're willing to incorporate any new best practices as we move forward.
Okay, I guess I'm concerned with the filtration system, and I'm sure all the employees in the buildings would be.
We do have the ability to open windows in that building. And
hey, that's unusual. A lot of buildings do not have the ability to open windows. So
and
fresh air.
We've talked about propping open doors if that was necessary, but the air filtration system is pretty powerful, and so it moves the air throughout the building pretty well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Rosario?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'm happy to see that we're digitizing all the board actions and resolutions. How far back are we going?
That'll take a while.
AGM Ocker, I'll provide you with the information I know. I believe we had hired an intern several years ago, even before I started, to digitize documents going back as far as we had them. I'm not sure how far they got, but I believe those documents have been scanned. I'm not sure if they've all been, you have to put in directory names, label them in order for them to be really accessed very easily. But I will follow up on that and figure out where we are on the status of that history project.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that'll be helpful not only to the board members, but to the public as well. So much appreciated.
We're going to go back to the stone tablets and make sure those are.
Lots of stones.
Thank you. All right. Are there any additional questions? I think we've come to the end of all of the objectives, and Catherine has done an awesome job of presenting all of this to us. Thank you so much. And I know a lot of work went into just putting together the presentation and the slides, so we really appreciate that. Deputy General Manager Ana Alvarez.
Thank you, President Corbett. In conclusion, I just would like to take a moment to pause and really continue to acknowledge the good work of staff. But in doing the assessment for the mid-year performance, again, this is the evaluation of the overall Parks District's performance in mission delivery, which is very, very critical. The final outcome, if there were to be any findings, is that we have an amazing cadre of professionals that are super committed to the mission of the district. And all of us are bounded by the values of the Park District and certainly the environmental ethic that we carry. So it's been a very large body of work, but also it's truly a labor of love, because while Catherine has done a beautiful job to bring everything together, she's in essence vocalizing the work of many, many people that work diligently to resolve perhaps very complex issues of the work today, but also they're already thinking, as you heard in the conversation, they're already thinking about what's next, what's coming down the line in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's, I just want to say how proud I am of the entire team. And I wanted just to reemphasize to the board that it's truly a privilege to have an amazing cadre of professionals and to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We agree with you.
Absolutely.
And this is, you know, we have such a wonderful and rich history and long history. And, you know, this is a time, as we know in our history, that so much is going on. We have these challenges with COVID-19 that people are dealing with in addition to doing their amazing work. And then we have, you know, a time of change, which is happening in our world. And that touches us just as closely as any other organization. And we are responding and we are moving. And that takes a lot of thoughtful work and effort as well. And I just want to say we all appreciate that as well. We know this is not just like every day is not just the same old day. There's a lot going on, a lot to address, and people are moving forward and meeting the challenge, and we appreciate that. And there'll be more to come, but we appreciate the work that's being done now. So thank you so much. All right. Well, if we're done with that item, we can go on to the next item, which is public comments. And as Becky mentioned, we did not hear from anybody in advance. And in this committee, we do take email and call in comments up until the day before, and we did not receive anything. So Becky, so I'm assuming we have no public comments.
That is correct. We have no public comments.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. And so it's time for board comments. Director Wieskamp, would you like to go first? Do you have any board comments?
Well, what I would really appreciate, and I apologize that my computer failed me, could I have a little summation on the first item, which obviously is a very important one,
Yes.
on the naming process?
Yes. Is Devin still with us? Devin did a fabulous job.
I'm sure he would. I hated to miss it.
Yes. Is he with us?
Director
There it is.
Wieskamp,
Yes.
Director
Hello.
Wieskamp, we can also make sure that you can review the recording. I will make sure that
Okay.
you have access to the recording, but sure, let Devin give a quick brief update.
Just a quick summation. I don't need it all. I've read it all, and I certainly have thought about it and discussed a lot, so that's fine.
It was so good, we don't mind hearing it again.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. So we have had a very successful outreach effort, a consultation effort with Native tribal leaders with the assistance of Dr. Beverly Ortiz. And the success has been one-on-one phone calls, and we'll be setting up a consensus meeting with the tribal leaders who participated. We've talked now to about 9 or 10 different tribal leaders in the Bay Area. In general, there's 2 categories of names that they are recommending. The first category is a name that would reflect the Native people who lived in the Concord area. Those are the Chupkan people, the Bay Miwok speaking people. And so suggestions have ranged from Chupkan Territory Regional Park, Chupkan Regional Park, Chupkan Bay Miwok Regional Park. In general, the consensus so far that we've heard is Chupkan Territory Regional Park. And then the other group of names have to do with a word or a phrase that represents the land, and translating that phrase into a Bay Miwok dialect. So a phrase like place where the rivers meet, or taking the higher ground. Those would be a phrase that would be selected and then translated into a Bay Miwok dialect. So we are going to have a meeting in the next 2 weeks with tribal leaders to see if we can find a consensus. And then we'll be bringing back on September 3rd to this committee an actual recommendation that comes out of those meetings.
Okay, and that's a recommendation from the Native tribes, but that does not mean it is the final name chosen, does it?
Correct. Yeah, the board, of course, has the final say.
Right. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew it. Frankly, I like the idea of the Native name.
Yes, and staff does as well.
It just seems appropriate, but I'm just one person. But thank you, and thank you for all your hard work. I really appreciate it, and I know Beverly Lane does. We know Beverly.
I hear she's listening in today.
I would not doubt that she is listening in today. But it was a lot of work, but I think it was well worth doing. So thank you so much, Devin.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Director Wieskamp. Oh, there she is. Hi, Beverly. Thank you for listening in today. Director Wieskamp, do you have any other comments?
No, it sounds to me I caught just a bit of the second item, but as usual, our staff was well prepared. And I think while a lot of work went into looking at the objectives, I think everybody on there has to agree, all the board members, that we gained a lot from that. It's just sort of how can you focus without reviewing what you've done. So good job on part of everybody.
Thank you, Director Wieskamp. And if you want to catch up on anything in the meeting, I'm available to you after the meeting as well.
Okay.
Just let me know, give me a call, or I can call you if you want to catch up any further. Just let me know. Be glad to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And Director Rosario, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to second what Director Wieskamp and Director Corbett and the words of Dr. Alvarez. I think this was a tremendous lot of work on both of these items, and we really appreciate the amount of work and the amount of detail that went into these. And with the, I'm hoping this is in regards to Concord Naval Weapons Station, I'm hoping we can enhance our relationship with the Native peoples. And I think this is a good start. And then on our performance standards, yeah, you can't do anything unless you have some kind of performance. And I think we've got good standards, and we're having good follow up. I think it goes to staff that we were able to pivot on a lot of our objectives and adding new and responding to the COVID pandemic, and being able to pivot and change and work from home. And it's incredible for an agency this large to be able to do that and have the flexibility, resiliency, and the knowledge and wherewithal to do that. And with that, I just have a couple of questions for next meeting. I know in previous meetings we talked about reviewing public safety policies. I wanted to know if that was. I think we decided to do that on at an executive board meeting. I'd like to see when that was going to be scheduled, and then I wanted to make sure when we do that the POA is available to participate as well. And then also just to follow up, I'm not sure. I have been shepherding a resolution to save the bees, and it went through ASD, and I'm just wondering where that's at. I haven't seen it.
Bzz, AGM Counselor.
Director Rosario. if
Oh,
I'm-
sorry, Deputy General Manager.
Yes, I think we certainly we're going to add with and have a conversation with General Manager Doyle on future agenda items for the executive committee. And regarding the bees, I see AGM Kelchner will be joining us, and hopefully we'll have the answer that you're looking for, because that's also an item of great interest to everyone. So yes, Christina.
Certainly. And Director Rosario, we do need to schedule a follow-up meeting with you. I have talked with Matt Growell and his staff about this, and I've reviewed the draft resolution and or policy, I think it is, and many of the items on there are work that we are already doing as a district. And so we'd like to talk with you about how to best communicate that, be transparent about it, and what more the district is interested in, taking on, given our resources. So we'll schedule a follow-up meeting with you to talk about that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would just, is that it, Director
That's it.
Rosario? Okay,
Thank
I would just add with regard to the review of our police department's policies and procedures. That was a request of the entire board at a board meeting. I can still hear the voices of people agreeing to that, including Director Wieskamp and Director Rosario. So would like to see that scheduled as soon as possible. And as we mentioned, we wanted to be inclusive on that and make sure that we have the opportunity to hear from our Police Officers Association as well. So hopefully that maybe can be scheduled for the September meeting. That would be great, because I think we did ask for this
June.
June or July. Yeah. It all runs together right now, but it was either June or July. So we would appreciate that coming forward. I know it takes some time to prepare for that, but we would like to see that coming forward. So I agree with that. And then with regard to today's meeting, what a great meeting. What an impressive body of work, the performance plan. Thank you for that. I won't say too much more. Everybody else has lauded it. It's great work, and it gives us an opportunity to see where we've come from and where we're going, and make sure we hit those high standards that we always know we can here at the Park District. And then also, once again, I'll just say thank you to Devin for his really wonderful work in bringing forward these discussions that are important for the naming of the Concord Hills Park, but also will be great for the future as we continue to ensure we recognize our history and people who have come before us as we, use and take care of and steward our precious lands. So with that, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead. Oh, wait, just a second. That's board comment. And after board comments, I see general manager comments. So I'm going to close out the meeting. Deputy GM Alvarez, do you have anything you would like to add as we
No.
end the meeting?
Thank you, President Corbett. Everything has been said. Thank you so much for all your closing comments and the board's comments in general.
Okay, nice to see you all. Thank you all very much.
One last thing.
Yes, no,
I just wanted to,
yes,
I just wanted to call out Catherine Dudney's work.
yeah,
With
absolutely.
her presentation. She not only does that, but she's also worked with the COVID task force as well. And so she's got a full plate, and this was very good work. So thank you to Catherine.
Yes, we don't
Here,
always get to see her. She's one of those behind the scenes people who makes it all work.
Yeah.
So it was great to see you today, Catherine.
Mhm.
All right, with that, we're adjourned. Nice to see you all.
Yay.
Take care.
Thank you very
all.
much.